renting isn't always worse than buying. And in today's video, we're going to be going over some personal numbers for myself in the local area and showing you guys with real math how it breaks down and how it's actually cheaper to rent than buy in certain situations. So looking at different scenarios, you'll have a better understanding of why this is possible and what's going on. In this base case scenario, you have it cheaper to rent the first 7 years versus buying an equivalent space and holding it for the long term. So one big piece of it is the closing costs that you need to pay when buying a home. If you're renting, you don't have to take all that money and give it to a realtor. You can take that money and potentially invest it in something like the stock market and get anywhere between 8 and 10% in returns over the long term. So I just threw in 9% for shits and giggles. Because of the theory of compounding interest and compounding investments, that upfront money is growing at a faster pace, whereas the upfront money that you paid for a house kind of just goes to someone else. That's why you have an advantage when you're renting in the short term. Over the long term, and in this base case, year 7 is where you break even, where both choices are kind of equivalent in total outflow of cash versus the amount of equity that you hold. And that's because you're paying down the cost of the loan on the house and building equity in the house. Some big assumptions going on in the scenarios, obviously the pricing of housing, the interest rate that you're able to get on the loan itself, your local area. So some areas, maybe pricing for housing is ridiculous. San Francisco, New York, bigger cities. If you're in a rural area or maybe a suburb, renting is probably going to be less likely to be advantageous. In a bigger city, because of the pricing of housing and how high it is, it's more likely that renting actually makes more sense. You're going to get a wide range of answers from people, whether it's better or worse. But using something like NerdWallet and this calculator definitely can help you see how renting could be better than buying. So if you really wanted to skew things, I was playing around with this. If you're really good at investing and you change this 9% to call it, hey, I can get 18% per year on investing because you are Warren Buffett and you're a genius, right? You plug that in and it's actually never cheaper to buy than rent. Now, granted, if you're not getting 18% returns on your initial investment money, you're going to fall behind in renting versus buying. But just to point out, there's certain situations where renting could theoretically be better than buying at any point. So what do you guys think in the comments? Do you think it's better to buy or rent? Leave your comment and your reasoning below. It's always an interesting discussion.